The enormous crystal chamber stretched endlessly upward, its walls shimmering with light from 1,000 different worlds. Ambassador James Mitchell stood in the center circle, his heart pounding as alien eyes, sensors and strange consciousness fields focused on him and his two companions. Dr. Emily Carter gripped her data pad so tightly her knuckles had turned white, while Captain William Hayes kept his military posture despite being surrounded by creatures that defied human imagination. Above them, floating in organized rows, sat the representatives of 247 different species. Some looked like giant insects with multiple arms. Others resembled living crystals that changed colors as they spoke. A few appeared to be made of pure energy, while others looked almost human except for extra limbs or eyes in impossible places. The Galactic Council had been meeting for thousands of years, but today was different. Today they were deciding the fate of humanity. The evidence cannot be ignored, announced Counselor Vextar, his see-through body shifting from blue to angry red as he spoke. His voice came through the translation devices as cold and final. These humans have shown us their true nature through their own history broadcast. They wage war constantly, destroy their own planet for resources, and conquer weaker peoples without mercy. James wanted to speak to defend his species, but the rules were clear. The humans could only respond when directly questioned. Around the chamber, massive screens showed images from Earth's past, soldiers marching, cities burning, weapons exploding. The aliens had intercepted television signals, internet data, and historical records. To them, humanity looked like nothing but violence and destruction. Dr. Emily Carter had tried to explain context during the preliminary hearings. She told them about human art, music, literature, and scientific discoveries. She spoke of charity, love, and sacrifice. But the alien minds, evolved far beyond primitive emotions like anger or fear, saw only patterns of aggression and expansion. The High Arbiter, a being made of living crystal that sparkled like diamonds, raised one of its geometric limbs. We have reviewed 12,000 years of human development. The pattern is clear and consistent. This species represents a Category 5 threat to galactic peace and stability. Captain Hayes clenched his jaw. Category 5 was the highest threat level, reserved for species that posed existential dangers to civilized worlds. It meant immediate action was not just allowed but required. The humans claim they have changed, spoke another counselor, this one resembling a floating jellyfish with dozens of tentacles. They say they come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship. But their own history proves otherwise. Every time they develop new technology they use it first for war. Emily finally found her voice when the Arbiter gestured for human response. Honored council members, you judge us by our worst moments, not our best. Yes, we have fought wars, but we have also learned from them. We have built international laws, formed peace treaties, and worked together to solve global problems. Our space program itself was born from cooperation between former enemies. The chamber buzzed with alien translations and discussions. Some species communicated through color changes, others with musical tones or electromagnetic pulses. The cacophony was overwhelming, but the message was becoming clear. Fear was winning over curiosity. Your space program, said Vextar with what sounded like disgust, was built on weapons technology. Your rockets were designed to carry bombs before they carried explorers. Even your peaceful missions serve military purposes. James stepped forward. We do not deny our violent past, but we ask you to see our potential future. Every species here must have faced similar challenges in their development. The capacity for violence does not make us evil, it makes us survivors who learn to protect what we love. Survivors, repeated the High Arbiter, its crystal form flashing brighter. Yes, that is precisely the problem. Your species survives by consuming everything around it. You have nearly destroyed your own planet and now seek new worlds to exploit. We cannot allow this infection to spread. The voting began without further discussion. One by one, glowing symbols appeared above each delegation. Red meant guilty, blue meant innocent. The red light started appearing immediately, like drops of blood in the cosmic chamber. The insect-like hivers voted guilty. The energy beings of the Nexus Collective voted guilty. The plant-based Sylvans, despite their reputation for wisdom, added their red light to the growing constellation of condemnation. Emily watched the count with growing horror. 40 guilty votes, then 60, then 100. A few species abstained, their sections remaining dark, but none voted in humanity's favor. The mathematical certainty became clear long before the final tally. When the voting ended, 246 red lights burned above the chamber like malevolent stars. Only one delegation had refused to vote at all, The mysterious keepers, ancient beings who rarely spoke and never explained their decisions. The decision is unanimous among voting members, announced the High Arbiter. Humanity is declared a Category 5 threat species. Immediate subjugation protocols are authorized to prevent their expansion beyond their home system. As celebration sounds filled the chamber, clicks, whistles and harmonic vibrations from dozens of different species, the Keeper representative finally spoke. Its voice was old beyond measure, carrying the weight of eons. "You believe you are caging a dangerous animal," the Keeper said quietly, its words somehow carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. "In truth, you are awakening something that chose to sleep. This vote may save your civilizations or it may doom them all." But the warning was lost in the sounds of victory. The council had spoken, and within hours the largest military fleet in galactic history began moving toward a small blue world on the outer rim, where 7 billion humans had no idea their freedom was about to end. 3 years had passed since the alien ships first appeared in Earth's sky like dark clouds blocking out the sun. Admiral Marcus Thompson crouched behind the twisted remains of what used to be a Chicago skyscraper, watching the alien patrol through his makeshift scope. The occupying forces had moved fast after their arrival, hitting every major military base with weapons that turned steel into dust and concrete into sand. The aliens thought they had won. They controlled the skies, monitored all communications, and had rounded up world leaders into camps scattered across the globe. Their technology was so advanced that human weapons barely scratched their ships. But they had made one crucial mistake. They thought breaking human governments meant breaking human spirit. Lieutenant Rebecca Stone crawled up beside Thompson, her face dirty and her uniform torn but her eyes still sharp with determination. "Movement in Sector 7, she whispered, pointing toward the alien convoy moving through the ruined streets. "Looks like another supply run to their base in the old airport." Thompson smiled grimly. The airport base would not be there much longer if his people had anything to say about it. Across the planet, small groups of humans had learned to do what their ancestors did best: adapt and survive. They moved without vehicles that could be tracked, communicated without radios that could be intercepted, and struck without warning in ways the aliens never expected. "Tell the others," Thompson said quietly. "Tonight we show them what humans do when someone tries to put us in chains." High above Earth's surface, Admiral Zephyx of the Altarian fleet stared at his control screens with growing confusion. His 4 main eyes tracked multiple displays while his 2 auxiliary eyes watched for incoming reports. 3 years of occupation should have meant complete control, but somehow the humans kept causing problems. "Sir," his aide reported nervously, "we have lost contact with Outpost Theta. That makes 7 installations this week." Zephyx studied the reports with growing unease. Supply ships disappeared between bases. Equipment malfunctioned in ways that made no sense. Personnel vanished from secure areas without triggering any alarms. The humans were supposed to be primitive, barely capable of space travel, yet somehow they were doing things that violated everything the aliens understood about warfare. How can a species that has not mastered faster-than-light travel consistently outmaneuver our best scouts? Zephyx asked his tactical officer. "Unknown, sir. They appear to be using some form of communication we cannot detect and moving through areas we believed impossible to traverse." What the aliens did not understand was that humans had spent millions of years learning to hunt animals that were bigger, stronger, and faster than they were. They had survived ice ages, plagues, and natural disasters by being clever, stubborn, and willing to do whatever it took to protect their families. The occupation had not broken humanity, it had reminded them who they really were. In an abandoned subway tunnel beneath New York, Dr. Helen Baker worked by candlelight, her hands moving carefully over salvaged alien components. Before the invasion, she had been a biochemist working on cancer research. Now she was something the galaxy had never seen before: a human who could take alien technology apart and put it back together in ways that worked better than the original design. "Tom, hand me that power coupling," she called to her assistant, Thomas Clark. He had been an automotive engineer before the war, but 3 years of desperate innovation had turned him into an expert on alien technology. Together, they had created weapons and tools that the occupying forces could not understand or counter. "This new power source is incredible," Helen said, connecting modified human electronics to alien energy cells. "We can make it run for weeks on a single charge and it puts out 3 times the power their version does." Tom grinned as he handed her another component. "Wait until you see what Mike did with their communication systems. He figured out how to make them work on frequencies they cannot monitor." The aliens had expected human intelligence to work like theirs: logical, methodical, and predictable. They planned for humans to study alien technology carefully, document everything, and slowly develop countermeasures over decades. Instead, humans looked at alien devices and immediately started wondering how they could be modified, improved, or used in completely different ways. Across the Atlantic, in the ruins of London, Captain Sarah Williams led her team through sewers that had become highways for the Resistance. They carried weapons that looked like alien rifles but fired human ammunition with alien power sources. Their radios used alien technology but operated on frequencies the invaders had never thought to monitor. "Target confirmed," she whispered into her modified communicator. "The power station is lightly guarded." Just like Thompson said, they still think we cannot coordinate across continents. But humans were coordinating, using a network of modified alien technology, ancient communication methods, and pure human stubbornness. Resistance cells in Asia shared information with groups in Europe, who passed intelligence to fighters in the Americas. The network grew every day as more humans learned to turn alien advantages into human strengths. Admiral Zefix received the latest report from his ground commanders with 4 of his eyes while monitoring orbital sensors with the other 2. Humans were attacking supply convoys with impossible precision, sabotaging equipment in ways that should require advanced engineering knowledge, and somehow moving personnel and materials across continents without using any detectable transportation. "Sir," his communications officer said carefully, "the ground commanders are requesting additional reinforcements. They report that human resistance is increasing rather than decreasing." Zefix felt a chill run through his crystalline body structure. The occupation was supposed to be simple: control the orbital space, eliminate human military capability, and manage the population until they accepted their new status. Instead, the humans were becoming more dangerous every day. As he prepared his report to the Galactic Council, Zefix could not escape one troubling thought. They had not conquered a primitive world and enslaved its people. They had awakened something that had been content to stay peaceful, and now it was learning to hunt them with the same skill their ancestors had used to become the dominant species on one of the galaxy's most dangerous planets. The chains they had tried to put on humanity were not holding, and Zefix was beginning to suspect they never could. Captain David Morgan gripped the controls of the stolen alien scout ship as it drifted silently through the darkness between star systems. The vessel looked like any other Zentorian patrol craft from the outside, but inside, human engineers had modified every system to work better, faster, and quieter than the original builders ever intended. Behind him in the cramped cockpit, his strike team prepared their equipment with practiced silence. Navigator Lisa Parker studied star charts on screens that glowed softly in the darkness, while the other 4 team members checked weapons that combined human creativity with alien technology in ways that still amazed their enemies. "Target acquired," Lisa whispered, her voice steady despite what they were about to attempt. Through the view screen, the Zentorian homeworld appeared like a blue-green jewel surrounded by defensive platforms that had protected this system for thousands of years. Until today, no enemy force had ever penetrated this far into Zentorian space. 5 years had passed since the failed occupation of Earth ended with humanity scattered to the stars. What began as desperate refugees fleeing their devastated homeworld had become something the galaxy had never seen: a coordinated campaign of retribution that struck across dozens of star systems with impossible precision and timing. The human strategy was unlike anything in recorded galactic history. They had no central command that could be destroyed, no supply lines that could be cut, no home base that could be attacked. Individual cells of humans operated independently across known space, yet somehow their attacks always supported each other with timing that seemed coincidental but could not possibly be random. On the bridge of the galactic defense cruiser Magnificent Dawn, Admiral Corthany studied tactical reports with growing horror. His tentacles writhed with agitation as he read the latest intelligence summaries. 17 different species had lost major military installations to human attacks in the past month alone. "Sir," his communications officer reported, his voice trembling, "the Rigelian High Command is requesting emergency assistance. They have lost their primary shipyard to a single human vessel." Corthany's main eye focused on the report while his secondary eyes monitored other displays. How could one ship destroy a facility that had taken centuries to build and employed millions of workers? The answer came in fragments from surviving security recordings: humans moving through corridors like they belonged there, bypassing security systems that should have been impossible to crack, planting explosives with surgical precision that left civilian areas untouched. "Show me the attack pattern analysis," Corthany commanded. The holographic display lit up with red dots marking human strikes across the galaxy. At first glance, the attacks seemed random: a communications hub here, a military depot there, a research station somewhere else. But as Korthani studied the pattern, a terrifying picture emerged. Every strike had been perfectly calculated to cause maximum strategic damage while avoiding civilian casualties. The humans were not fighting like any civilized species. They fought like persistence hunters who had evolved to track prey across impossible distances, adapt to any environment, and never give up no matter how long the chase took. Meanwhile, in a hidden asteroid base in the Tau Ceti system, General Robert Kane coordinated humanity's unconventional war from a command center carved into living rock. Around him, screens displayed the positions of human cells across known space, each group operating independently, yet maintaining perfect strategic coordination through methods the aliens still could not understand. Phase 3 targets confirmed, reported Colonel Patricia Wells, his intelligence chief. She had been a history professor before the invasion, but years of guerrilla warfare had turned her into one of the galaxy's most effective tactical analysts. Altarian reserves, Zentorian communications hub, and Rigelian fleet yards. Kane nodded slowly as he studied the galactic map. Each attack was designed to demonstrate a simple message to the species that had voted to enslave Earth. The cost of aggression against humanity would always exceed any possible benefit. What about civilian casualties? Kane asked, as he always did before approving any operation. Zero tolerance maintained, Patricia replied. All teams have confirmed civilian evacuation procedures. Military targets only as always. This policy confused the aliens more than anything else. Species that fought wars typically tried to break enemy morale by attacking civilian populations. Humans did the opposite. They struck military targets with devastating precision while going to extraordinary lengths to protect innocent lives. It was a type of warfare that the galaxy had never encountered. Back on David's scout ship, the strike team moved with practiced efficiency as they approached their target. The Zentorian orbital defenses were impressive: energy shields that could stop battleship weapons, sensor arrays that could detect a single fighter at light years distance, automated defense platforms that could track and destroy hundreds of incoming missiles simultaneously. But the defenses had been designed to stop conventional attacks by civilized species using predictable tactics. They were not prepared for humans who fought like their ancestors had hunted mammoths, with patience, intelligence, and a willingness to spend weeks stalking their prey before striking at exactly the right moment. Beginning final approach, Lisa reported. All systems show green. Defense grid is tracking us as a routine patrol vessel. The stolen ship's identification codes were perfect because they were real, taken from a Zentorian patrol that had made the mistake of trying to capture humans alive for interrogation. The aliens still did not understand that humans had spent their entire evolutionary history learning from predators that were bigger, stronger, and more dangerous than themselves. As David guided the ship past the outer defense ring, he thought about Admiral Zephix and the other alien commanders who had once looked down on humanity from their orbital platforms around Earth. They had seen humans as primitive animals that needed to be caged for the galaxy's safety. Now those same aliens were learning what Earth's ancient prey animals had discovered millions of years ago. Sometimes the most dangerous predator was the one that looked harmless until it was too late to run. The emergency session of the Galactic Council met in a chamber that felt hollow and empty. Where once 247 species had gathered to vote on humanity's fate, now barely half that number dared to attend meetings. Empty seats stretched across the crystalline amphitheater like missing teeth, each one representing a species that had either lost their homeworld to human retaliation or withdrawn from the Alliance entirely. Councillor Vextar, who had led the original vote to enslave Earth, now stood before his fellow delegates with his translucent form flickering between colors of fear and desperation. His voice carried none of its former authority as he addressed the scattered representatives. "The situation has exceeded all our projections," he announced, his words trembling through the universal translators. "Human forces have penetrated our deepest defensive systems. They strike without warning, vanish without trace, and fight with tactics that defy all military logic." Around the chamber, the remaining alien delegates shifted nervously. The great Rigelian Empire had lost 3 major worlds. The proud Zentorian Republic had seen their capital's orbital defenses destroyed by a single human ship. The ancient Altarian Dominion had withdrawn from the Alliance entirely after losing 17 military installations in a single coordinated strike. "They fight without honor," complained Admiral Korthani, his tentacles writhing with agitation. "They refuse our challenges to open battle, ignore our attempts at formal surrender, and continue their attacks even when we offer negotiations." From the shadows at the edge of the chamber, a figure that had remained silent for millennia finally stepped forward. The Keeper representative moved like time itself had worn them thin, their ancient form barely holding together after countless eons of existence. "You still do not understand what you are facing," the keeper said, their voice carrying the weight of ages. "You believe they fight without honor because you do not comprehend their true nature." High Arbiter Thalarin's crystalline structure flickered with barely controlled energy. "You claim knowledge of these creatures. Explain their impossible capabilities." "We encountered them before," the keeper replied, memories older than most civilizations flickering through their consciousness. 12,000 of your years ago during what you call the first expansion. Even then, when their species had barely discovered fire, we recognized what they were. On Earth's moon, in facilities carved deep into ancient lava tubes, Colonel Michael Hayes coordinated humanity's most ambitious operation yet. His brother James had been one of the original diplomats captured during the First Contact disaster, and Michael had spent every day since then working to make the aliens pay for their arrogance. "Confirmation from all strike teams," reported Major Susan Foster, monitoring communications from human cells scattered across the galaxy. "The Alliance is fragmenting exactly as predicted. The Altarians have officially withdrawn, and the Zentorians are seeking separate peace negotiations." Michael studied the holographic display showing galactic political boundaries. Red zones marked systems under human interdiction, yellow indicated contested space, and the ever-shrinking blue areas showed remaining Alliance territory. The map told a story of systematic destruction that had reshaped galactic politics in just 5 years. Dr. Andrew Mitchell, James's younger brother, worked at a nearby console analyzing alien communication intercepts. "They are turning on each other," he reported with satisfaction. "The Rigelians blamed the Altarians for the intelligence failures. The Zentorians claimed the whole invasion was orchestrated by the Dominion for territorial expansion. The human strategy was working perfectly. They were not trying to conquer the galaxy or rule over alien species. Instead, they were demonstrating a simple truth that every bully eventually learned. Some victims fought back, and when they did, the cost was always higher than anyone expected." Back in the council chamber, the keeper continued their explanation while the remaining delegates listened with growing horror. "Your species evolved on worlds that were kind to you," the ancient being said. "Stable climates, abundant resources, few natural predators. You developed intelligence to solve problems and create beauty. But Earth was different. Earth was a world that tried to kill everything that lived on it." The keeper gestured, and holographic images filled the chamber: massive volcanoes that darkened skies for years, ice ages that covered continents, meteor impacts that wiped out entire ecosystems. "Humans are survivors of 5 major extinction events on their homeworld," the keeper continued. "They evolved not just intelligence, but an adaptability and persistence that allowed them to outlive species far stronger than themselves. They are persistence hunters who learn to track prey across vast distances, never giving up, always adapting, always finding new ways to achieve their goals." Admiral Corthani's tentacles went rigid with realization. "You mean they hunt us the same way their ancestors hunted animals on their homeworld?" "Exactly," the keeper confirmed. "You caged what you thought was a dangerous predator. In truth, you awakened the galaxy's apex persistence hunters and gave them a reason to hunt you." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Species that had evolved past warfare, that had known only peace and prosperity for millennia, were being systematically hunted by creatures that had spent their entire evolutionary history learning to survive against impossible odds. "Sir," Susan Foster announced to Michael Hayes, "we are receiving surrender requests from the Tau Centauri Coalition. They want to negotiate terms for ending hostilities." Michael nodded grimly as he watched more blue areas on the galactic map change to yellow and then to red. The vote to enslave Earth had seemed so reasonable to the aliens at the time, cage a dangerous species before they could spread across the galaxy. Now that same vote was destroying everything they had built. The galaxy was learning a lesson that Earth's ancient predators had discovered long ago. Sometimes the most dangerous animal was not the biggest or strongest, but the one that refused to give up, no matter how long the hunt took or how impossible the odds seemed. The price of their hubris was becoming clear, and it was higher than any of them had ever imagined possible. The single alien vessel approached Earth's solar system like a ghost ship carrying the weight of galactic defeat. Its hull bore the white symbols of surrender on every surface, and its communication arrays broadcast peace codes on all frequencies that human forces might be monitoring. Admiral Zephix, who had once commanded the mighty fleet that enslaved humanity, now served as a messenger for the broken remains of what used to be the most powerful alliance in galactic history. On Luna Base, built into the same craters where humans had first dreamed of reaching the stars, General Robert Kane stood before a massive view screen showing the approaching vessel. Around him gathered the leaders who had transformed from ordinary people into something the galaxy had never seen: unified human resistance that had brought the greatest civilizations to their knees. Colonel Patricia Wells, Admiral Marcus Thompson, Dr. Helen Baker, Captain David Morgan, and dozens of others filled the command center. Teachers who became strategists, engineers who became weapons designers, soldiers who became hunters of alien prey, all united by 7 years of warfare that had reshaped both humanity and the galaxy itself. "They are requesting permission to land," reported Captain Lisa Parker from the communications station. Her voice carried the professional calm that came from years of coordinating strikes across multiple star systems. The transmission includes formal surrender documents from 43 species and a personal apology from the High Arbiter himself. Kane exchanged glances with his staff. After 7 years of warfare that had turned the galaxy upside down, the species that had voted to cage humanity were finally ready to admit they had made a mistake. The meeting took place in the same lunar chamber where humanity had planned their first desperate resistance operations. Admiral Zephyx entered with a delegation of 12 representatives from different species, their varied forms united only by the unmistakable posture of complete defeat. Zephyx looked older somehow, his translucent body dimmer than it had been during the occupation. When he spoke, his words carried genuine shame that the translation devices struggled to convey properly. "General Kane," he began, "we come to formally request mercy for our actions against your species. The Galactic Council acknowledges that the vote to subjugate Earth was the greatest mistake in our recorded history." Dr. Emily Carter, who had survived the brutal early days of occupation and now served as humanity's chief diplomatic advisor, stepped forward. Her voice was steady but carried the memory of every human life lost during the Long War. "A mistake that cost millions of human lives, left our homeworld devastated, and forced us to become something we never wanted to be." "Yes," Zephyx replied, his form flickering with what looked like genuine grief. "For that crime against your people, we offer complete reparations, withdrawal from all systems you claim, formal recognition of human sovereignty, and whatever punishment you deem appropriate." The alien delegates waited in tense silence. The galaxy lay broken before humanity, their military forces scattered, their political unity shattered, their confidence destroyed. Humans could demand anything they wanted. Territory, resources, even the complete subjugation of the species that had once enslaved them. The human leaders had debated this moment for months in secret meetings. Some wanted revenge that would match what had been done to Earth. Others argued for building a human empire to replace the fallen alien alliance. A few suggested making the aliens pay with centuries of forced labor and tribute. Instead, General Kane stepped forward with humanity's response, and his words surprised everyone in the chamber. "We accept your apology and your reparations," he said simply. "But we have a different proposal that none of you are expecting." The alien delegates looked at each other with expressions of confusion and fear. What could humanity possibly want that would be worse than subjugation? Kane activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy from a perspective no one in the chamber had seen before, long-range sensors pointing outward into the dark space between galaxies. "Your civilizations evolved past warfare so long ago that you forgot there were things worse than each other out there," Kane continued. "While you were busy voting to enslave us, we detected something that should terrify you more than anything humans ever did." Dr. Andrew Mitchell stepped forward to explain the sensor data. "We have identified 17 distinct hostile signatures operating beyond the galactic rim. They have been probing our defenses, testing response times, studying our technology. They are preparing for something much larger than anything your species have ever faced." The holographic display showed movement patterns in the cosmic void, organized, purposeful, and clearly hostile. The aliens stared at the data with growing horror as they realized what it meant. "We offer you partnership," Kane concluded. "Human military expertise and our experience with survival warfare, combined with your technology and resources. Not as conquerors or subjects, but as equals working together against threats that could destroy everything we all care about." The Keeper representative, who had observed in silence throughout the meeting, finally spoke with their ancient voice full of what sounded like approval. "This is why we abstained from the original vote," the Keeper said. "We recognized what your species truly represents, not destroyers but protectors. You fight not because you enjoy violence but because you understand that some things are worth defending." Admiral Zephyx looked stunned. "You would help us? After everything we did to your people?" Kane smiled grimly. "Admiral, your species made one crucial error in judgment about humanity. You thought our capacity for violence made us evil. In truth, it makes us the guardians you never knew you needed. 3 months later, the first joint human-alien patrol fleets launched toward the galactic perimeter. Captain David Morgan commanded a hybrid vessel with crew members from 6 different species, all working together under human tactical leadership. "Contact on long-range sensors," announced his Centaurian tactical officer. "Unknown configuration heading toward the inner systems." Morgan gave the order that would have been impossible just 1 year earlier. "All ships, prepare for engagement. Protect the homeworlds, all of them." The species that had once voted to enslave Earth now followed human commanders into battle against enemies they could never have faced alone. The galaxy had learned its greatest lesson. Sometimes mercy meant having someone willing to stand between you and the monsters waiting in the dark. Humanity's true victory was not conquering their former captors, but teaching them how to fight for something worth saving.